Namam Vishnupadaya Krishnapastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktitirtha Swaminiti Namine Namaste Krishnapadaya Prabhupada Shritatmane Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhaktitirtha Namine Namam Vishnupadaya Krishnapastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswat Devam Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadim Paschate Desutarine Om Ajnanatimrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamakyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Namo Namo Aniruddhaya Hishikesha Indriyatmane Namah Paramahamsaya Purnaya Nibhutatmane Swarga Pavarga Dwaraya Nityam Suchi Sade Namah Namah Hiranya Viryaya Chaturhotraya Tantave. So, I was asked to speak about deity worship. Actually, it was quite an eclectic group of topics. It was deity worship, a little bit on initiation, in the process of chanting, why deity worship if the emphasis is so much on chanting. So I was thinking that we should choose a verse first of the Bhagavad Gita, because the Bhagavad Gita has all the answers. This is Krishna's words, so obviously he's instructing Arjun. So we want to take instruction from the Bhagavad Gita first, and then we will go into the specific topic that we want to address today. Yeah. So the verse that I want to talk about is verse 4.24. Please repeat after me. Brahmarpanam Brahmahavir Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam Brahmaivatena Gantavyam. Okay. Brahma Karma Samadhina. I'm going to begin again. It's alright. Okay. Brahmarpanam Brahmahavir Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina. Translation: a person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, please repeat after me. A person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution into spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute, and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. So, many statements right in the translation. The first statement which Srila Prabhupada is making in the translation is a person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness. He's using the word fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Now, very specifically, we want to understand the nature of activity. What is it which allows us to become fully absorbed in a certain activity? You see, action is not possible unless an identity is established before you commit to action. You need an identity. For someone to function as a father, he has to know he's a father. Because associated with the role of father comes certain codes of conduct, certain duties towards his children, towards the other family members, and so on and so forth. So first the identity has to be established as to who we are, and then once the identity is established, then the associated action with that identity follows quite naturally. So if you all work professionally, most of you are professionals, you're working in some organization. When you work in an organization, you're being given a certain role, isn't it? And the role in itself is an identity which has been established. And the role has certain responsibilities which your superiors and your peers would probably advise you on, saying, if you take on this role, these are the duties associated with that role. So without establishing an identity or a role, you can't really engage in action, because you wouldn't know how to engage in that action. You wouldn't. You see? So the more important aspect is, if you want to function as a father, a husband, or a professional, or a mother, a daughter, whatever be the different identities that you have, all of these identities have associated roles with them. And once you establish the identity, then the role becomes more and more clear, and we function within certain boundaries that are associated with the role, and we're able to execute what needs to be done. So there are certain things, which a father can do, a certain thing which he's not supposed to do, or he may not do that properly, or he might be engaging, or he might practically delegate it to someone. See, there are duties there. So now the point which I'm trying to make here is that if we want to act, we need to have an identity established. Otherwise, we would not be able to engage in any kind of karma. You see? And when there is confusion about the identity, then the action itself becomes extraordinarily deficient. So sometimes you hear in professional circles, he really didn't get what his role was. You see? You hear about it. Sometimes they say he didn't really know what his role was. He didn't understand his position. He was promoted, he was given responsibility, he had a team under him, but he didn't quite get it, that he was supposed to be a manager. You see? So sometimes what happens is that when people do not understand their identity, they can't really function. They can't really function. So here Prabhupada is using the word, a person is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness. How can someone be fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness when the person does not know their specific relationship with Krishna? Is it possible? If Nitai Kirtan Prabhu goes to work and then he has been told that he needs to do something for his child, then that doesn't require a lot of effort, because the identity is already established. As a consequence, the responsibility is known. The duties towards the responsibility is also known, and he is able to do it effortlessly. It really doesn't require him to work very hard in being able to execute for his child or children. He doesn't have to do much. Why? Because the identity is well known. So how does one get completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness without knowing the relationship? So our acharyas are saying Sambandha is the most important aspect of Krishna consciousness. We need to be able to develop a relationship with Krishna. So this is the fundamental premise of all spiritual pursuit. If you are following a spiritual pursuit that is consistent with what it is supposed to do, it has to be able to establish your relationship with Krishna. After establishing the relationship, the identity is known. First it starts with, I'm a servant of Krishna. And being a servant of Krishna means I have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Being a servant of the spiritual master, I have to do these things. We get to know what we ought to do, isn't it? Then from that identity, we work on ourselves because of sadhana, and we develop our identity, and it becomes even more clear as to what's our specific relationship with Krishna is. In the early stages of Krishna consciousness, why is it so difficult for people to give time to Krishna consciousness? Why is it so difficult for people to even chant? Why is it that we are finding it so difficult to chant? It is because we really don't have a clear conception of our relationship with Krishna. Devotees struggle because they're struggling because they don't have a clear conception of the relationship with Krishna. It's easy to do things when you know whom you're doing it for. Since you're not clear about the very specific relationship you have with God, it becomes difficult to dedicate yourself to that service. So full absorption is not possible. Full absorption is not possible unless one knows what is the relationship they have very specifically with Krishna. Now, we speak of chanting. Chanting is the primary means of deliverance for us. We really do not have any other process other than chanting. We really don't. This is the conclusion of our acharyas. And the more someone advances, the more absorbed they would become in chanting of the holy names. In fact, they would think that that is more important than anything else. And it would become very clear that the acharyas have given us what they need to give. The bead bag is all you need. Nothing else is required. Harinam is all you need. Okay, the reason why the misconception arises as to whether there's a priority and I can't really chant, I'm not really interested, and then I can't really chant with concentration, I'm struggling with my chanting, is because there is a lack of knowledge of the specific relationship one has with Krishna. There's a lack of knowledge. So the other relationship in this world, they become more prominent even when we hold on to the beads and we are calling upon Krishna's names in the morning. The other relationships and the other kind of activities that we have in this world, they overwhelm us and they come up to the forefront and they say, deal with us first before you call upon Krishna's name, because Krishna is not a priority. We are a priority because Krishna's relationship with us has not been established. So a challenge exists that we have been given a process where we have to establish a relationship. And the more we establish the relationship, the greater would be our ability to serve. Just as much as the more the father, mother, husband, whatever, wife understand what that relationship is all about, the greater would be the ability to act in that relationship. You see? The challenges that we face in this world, even in relationships, is because those identities are not fully understood. If the wife and the husband, they understand what their relationships are from a Shastric perspective, then there would be no problems with relationships. But because there is a misconception of what the expectation is of the wife, what is the expectation of the husband from the wife, to the two partners, then there are so many differences which come up between a couple and even amongst friends and even amongst relatives, is because they don't have a conception of what is to be expected, what is the duty, what is one supposed to do, and what exactly is needed. So now we understand why is it that we are struggling. We are struggling with the chanting of the holy names, even though that's been given to us. And this is across the board. We struggle when you come into the movement, and we struggle right through for many, many years. Why is it so? Why isn't it being prioritized by us? Why don't we jump out of the bed at 2 o'clock in the morning like many devotees do? Sincere, serious devotees exist who wake up at 2:30 in the morning, and I'm giving you this big figure. They jump out of bed. When do you jump out of bed? You jump out of bed when you're really enthusiastic and you really are going to enjoy doing something. It's pleasurable, isn't it? You just jump out of bed because you really want to do something. There are many sadhus who jump out of bed at 2:30 in the morning. They have a quick wash and then they begin chanting. I'm not going to overwhelm you with this. The point I'm trying to make here is that they don't jump up because someone is holding a stick behind them, forcing them to wake up. They jump out on their own impetus because they are very enthused. And then, how many rounds are people chanting here? Perhaps 4 rounds, 1 round, 2 rounds, 16 rounds? How many 16 rounds? Obviously.
16.
Yeah, many. Okay. So sadhus in Vrindavan, sadhus in Mayapur, they wake up at 2:30 and they're done with 64 rounds by the time it's 7 o'clock in the morning. By the time it's 7 in the morning, they're done with 64 rounds. They do not do anything until they're done with their 64 rounds. And they don't even want to waste the time in the morning trying to have a dip in the river. They wake up, just wash themselves preliminary, grab the bead bag because they want to taste the holy name. Because the holy names are so sweet. Krishna's names are so sweet. They want to taste the holy name. It's really a practical realization. This is not fiction. It's a practical realization that enthusiasm comes because they're really interested in doing it. No one really is forcing them to do it. Now, why is it that many of us struggle? Because we struggle because our relationship with Krishna is not fully established. So there is this prioritization which occurs in the mind where we can't really be absorbed in devotional service 24/7 like others do, simply because we don't know who Krishna is. We know He is God. We know we have a relationship because Shastra says so. We have heard it in so many classes, practically every class, that we have a relationship with Him, an eternal relationship. But we do not know the specifics. Since we do not know the specifics, there is less enthusiasm in us being able to engage and absorb ourselves fully. So someone who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is one who has understood his specific or her specific relationship with Krishna. This is called Sambandha Gyan in Sanskrit. Sambandha is relationship. Gyan is knowledge of the relationship has come to them because they have chanted very sincerely, and the holy names has revealed their specific relationship in the heart. The relationship becomes very evident. And then they are able to act in Krishna consciousness. For such a person, it's full absorption. They could be working. They could be a programmer. They could be anything they want to be in the outside world. But because the relationship is already established with Krishna, it's been fully revealed, their work is completely contributing to the Krishna consciousness because they're absorbed already in the relationship. Just as much as the example that I gave is just because he's working for an organization outside, he does not cease to be a father while he's sitting there at his desk. He's fully aware that he is a father, isn't he? He can fully understand if his wife calls or the child calls, he will pick up the phone, it's probably going to prioritize, he's going to act upon it. Why? Because there's already a complete knowledge of the relationship. So underline this word, sambandha. The objective of all sadhana is sambandha. The objective of acting in anything and everything we do is to ultimately reach the position of understanding who we are in relationship to Krishna. The process of chanting the holy names organically reveals this identity. Okay? So how does it begin? How does it begin? It first begins with the first step of faith that every one of us have taken up. This is an example of faith where you have understood that there's something which can be gained by associating with like-minded devotees of the Lord, and you have understood that there's something special about this, and you have taken the time to come and be a part of the Sangha. So first is Adav Shraddha. We want to know and have this faith so that we can engage in the relationship. We can actually move together with sadhus. So Adav Shraddha, then we come in touch with sadhus because we have faith. Sadhu Sangha. Because there is Sadhu Sangha, then comes Bhajana Kriya, which is we engage in activity. Now today's topic of deity worship has to do with Bhajana Kriya. We are literally talking about Bhajana Kriya. We have established our faith. We have been drawn into the movement. We are engaging in service. And then we now want to associate, and then we want to engage in Bhajana Kriya. Bhajan is practically what you do on a daily basis. This is sadhana. This is sadhana bhakti. Now what is it that we do when we enter into an ISKCON center? The first thing that we do is that in the evening when there's Gaurarti or Mangalarti, we dance, we call upon Krishna's names, we become completely absorbed in that particular area in calling upon and acting in the relationship of being a servant of Krishna. This is what happens in Vraja, in the eternal realm of Vrindavan, Goloka, where Krishna lives. People really do not have any other identity other than an identity that's been established with him. The mothers do not cook for their children. They send their boys to play with Krishna, but they're cooking for Krishna thinking, oh, I'm going to give this kind of breakfast for my child, but I will make this because Krishna really likes this. So my child can take his little tiffin or whatever it is, and he can share it with Krishna, and Krishna will enjoy this. So they are making things for Krishna at that time. Now, the cowherd boys, they do not have anything else other than Krishna. It is said in certain confidential scriptures, comes noon time, Krishna and some of the cowherd boys, they just slip away because they want to engage in more confidential, aspects of Krishna consciousness, such as meeting Srimati Radharani. They're all very young, so they're meeting her. And when he disappears from the sight of the cowherd boys, many of them just faint because they think he's gone somewhere. Krishna, you're disappeared, where are you? They start fainting, they start losing consciousness because for them, without Krishna, the world is empty. And then Balaram, he pacifies them. He'll come back, don't worry. He pacifies them, and then they wait for him. Similarly, the mothers who send the cowherd boys, Mother Yashoda, they're in deep anxiety just to receive him when he comes back in the evening. They're in deep anxiety throughout the day, in separation. The point is, there are 3 different stages of chanting. The first chanting that we do is the chanting that we do, which is Nama Parad. We call it chanting of the holy names but with offenses. And why do offenses take place? Why can't we call upon Krishna's names without offenses? It's because we are distracted. There's no absorption. Why isn't there any absorption? Because the sambandha is not known, the relationship is not known. Okay. Now, the next stage of chanting is namabhas, where the offenses cease. The mind is not distracted anymore. When you pick up the beads, you're able to hear, you're able to chant, there are no more offenses. During that stage, it's very wonderful because there'll be a lot of advancement. There'll be a sense of deep happiness when you chant. There'll be a sense of deep happiness. Chanting the beads, holding the beads and chanting would make the person very happy. The third stage is the Shuddhanam. What is Shuddhanam? Which is the objective that we have to attain in Krishna consciousness. It is the name called in Vrindavan. When Mother Yashoda is calling Krishna, come here. Or when his friends are calling him, Krishna, Kana, come here, sit with us. That particular name which they're calling, with the very deep knowledge of their relationship with him, which is bringing forth a great deal of love with prema, that particular name which is being called with complete knowledge of the specific relationship they have with the Lord, that name is Shuddhanam, pure name. And that is our objective. We ultimately have to reach that point. So where do we start? We start from a point where we don't know who Krishna is, except to the fact that we have faith that this process is wonderful and we want to learn. And then we finally reach a point of knowing who he is, and then we call upon his name with love. This is the process of sadhana bhakti going all the way to prema. Now comes the topic which we have been asked to speak on. I wanted to set the stage first. So we want to be able to chant Shuddhanam. We want to be able to call upon Krishna with great affection, just as his mother would or his friends would in Braja. Now, having that objective, now we come into this process of doing many, many things ultimately to reach that objective. So we want to be clear as to why. Now, when we come in touch with the movement, there's an organic process of first developing faith, coming in touch with sadhus. We meet many, many sadhus who inspire us. They're all Siksha Gurus, we call them. Amongst one of the Siksha Gurus who attracts us, one of them, there comes the Diksha Guru. He is the one who is going to give initiation. Now, the process of initiation in the Vaishnava Parampara involves 5 steps. Pancha Samskara, it's called. Samskara is practically an impression that's created in consciousness. When you go through a certain experience in the world, and if it creates an impression in your consciousness, that's called a samskara. You see? It's an impression. Now, the positive impression of a spiritual impression, there are 5 steps of initiation which they talk about. And I'm going to just talk about it briefly, because without understanding what that is, you can't really talk about the use of deity worship. Pancha Samskara, the first aspect of samskara or impression of initiation, is tapaha. This is in all bona fide Vaishnava Sampradayas. Tapaha means penance. Tapaha means austerity, tapaha means penance. So, just as much as someone wants to establish their identity, saying, okay, now I am a slave of Krishna. The Guru says you're a slave of Krishna. And then he brands us. In the Vaishnava Sampradaya, where in the southern India, the Sri Sampradaya, they literally take hot seals, iron seals of a conch and a Sudarshan Chakra, and they imprint the devotee who is taking samskara for the initiation with that seal on either side of the shoulder. It's like a quick tattoo. It's a quick tattoo. The Guru takes it, and then it's hot, it's branding. Like we say, we brand an animal. They practically brand you on either side with a hot seal of conch and discus, which is Krishna's symbols. They brand them. In Mahaprabhu's system, and this is the reason is, they're wanting to say that by doing this and this impression, you're supposed to be engaging in tapaha, you're supposed to be engaging in austerity. What is the austerity? The austerity is the mind is demanding so many things, it's distracted in so many different ways. We want to be able to culture ourselves so that we can surrender in a proper way. We want to wake up at a certain time, we want to act according to the Guru's orders, we want to be able to sacrifice our time for Krishna, we want to be able to take trouble saying, this is my comfort zone, this is what I want to do, but Krishna has an alternative. Krishna wants me to do this. I'm going to sacrifice what I want to do, move out of my comfort zone, and I'm going to do what Krishna wants to do. I like sleeping until 7 o'clock, but then sadhana bhakti would require my waking up at 4. Maybe I should make some endeavor to increase the amount of time in the morning. That is tapaha. So the impression is being said that you have become a slave of Krishna. That's the first thing. You've become a slave. I'm using the word very carefully. A slave has no independence. They are not compensated. A servant is compensated. Okay? A slave is not compensated. They are owned. They are owned by Krishna. So, they are branded. Okay? Mahaprabhu uses, instead of branding, Mahaprabhu is using the clay impressions or wooden impressions of the Harinam. In our system, they use Harinam practically dipping in sandalwood. They paste it on our body in different parts, in the chest and so on. So that's compensation. But the point is that you really are understanding that you belong to someone now. This is tapaha, and then you don't have any freedom. You better act according to their desires. You see, those devotees who have served Srila Prabhupada sincerely, Hari Sauri Prabhu, Shrutakirti Prabhu, if you were to read their books, you will understand what it is to be belonging to someone in complete surrender. They would have no time for themselves. No time if they're going to serve the spiritual master. No time. They would have constantly be with him, ensuring that his needs are being met, Srila Prabhupada's needs. So no time to chant. Just when they are trying, and they have to sleep when he sleeps, and then wake up when he wakes up. So when are they going to catch up with the rounds, having their own space? This is complete surrender. There's really nothing. So this is an experience. When you serve the spiritual master directly, then there's an experience that, oh, it's possible of what is surrender. I'm going to have no freedom. I practically have to give my life to the spiritual master. Now, in that sense, tapaha is the first impression that's being given, which is austerity that needs to be performed to be able to gain an objective. And performing austerity is not new. Even if you want to have a mundane achievement of passing an exam, wanting some, a promotion, you need to put in extra hours, you want to skip meals and so on and so forth. So what's the big deal of austerity anyways if you want to go back all the way to Godhead and have an association with Krishna? Austerity is known. Number one, tapaha. Then there is pundra. Tapaha pundra. Pundra is... Practically, pundra means wearing tilak. You see, wearing tilak in different parts of the body is called pundra. Okay? Tapaha pundra. This is the second aspect of initiation. So those who are initiated are meant to wear the tilak in the 12 different aspects of the body, in the sense that you are supposed to do that. This is required because there's a part of Pancha Samskara. It is the second Samskara in Pancha Samskara. You see, we chant those in the morning, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8, 9, 10, 11, and then 12. 12. And then we have specific mantras for us. This is Pundra. It's a very specific samskara which you have to start once you become initiated, because each and every time you do this, there's an improvement. What is it which is being improved here? In the first impression, the impression is being given that you belong to Krishna. You are a das or a dasi. The second impression is you're branding his name all through your body, and you're wearing clay from Vrindavan, where you're practically connecting yourself in different areas with his abode. Have you seen in different cultures people tattoo the name of the lover on their arms? Have you seen it? It happens all the time. You see it. They tattoo this thing and then they put something. You can see it in different cultures. Okay. Now, when they do this, what is it they're trying to do? They want to somehow or the other remember. You see. So Krishna, we are practically doing the same thing. We want to remember. There are aspects of mundane affection, mundane infatuation and love, okay, which you can practically say that is a reflection. It's a perversion of what is in the spiritual world. But in reality, that exposes what a human being is capable of doing. A human being is capable of complete absorption and writing the names of their beloved all over their body and all of those things. And we do it formally with the Acharya's consent, where we put Krishna's name so that we can fall in love eventually with Krishna. What is the third aspect? Tapaha pundra, nama. Nama is given by the Guru. There are two aspects to nama. Nama is name. The Guru gives a specific name to the devotee and then qualifies the devotee. He may take a name which is very mundane, has no connection with the spiritual world, and he would practically give a name which is connected to the spiritual world, so that when someone is calling upon the devotee, and the devotee himself knows that that's who he is. To be honest, once you receive a name from the Guru, you tend to forget that you have the other name. The legal name just disappears. It's a fact. Because the Sangha, you move through with devotees and you don't know anybody else after some time because you really want to associate with devotees. No one calls you by your legal name. It's always the initiated name. So you practically forget that you even had a name which is disassociated or associated with this. So it's pretty amazing. The name is given. In addition to that, he is also pronouncing the name of Krishna into the ear. He is giving nama. He is giving nama. He is giving the Harinam also. He is giving the specific Naam of Krishna. So we receive it from the Guru. Why does the Guru give us? Why do we need a Guru? We need a Guru because there is a certain conditioning. There's a certain aspect of our karmic reactions which do not allow us to really accept the process of Krishna consciousness. So the Guru gets involved, and out of his mercy, he takes his faith and he puts it into our heart, and that happens when we hear his words. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koryaikya. So when we hear his words, the impressions are created in our heart. And as soon as that is also being done, he practically gives us the ability to chant. He is telling us, chant 16 rounds. He is telling us, do not do this and do this. He's giving us to-dos and to not to-dos. And he's also giving us the blessing and the power to do so. So initiated devotees immediately feel enthused to be able to chant. They get some extra power. They have the ability to chant. That comes because the Guru has ordered them and has given them power to do so. Then comes mantra. Mantra is the second initiation part. The second initiation part is where a very specific confidential mantra is shared by the Guru to the disciple. Normally in our system it is the Gopal mantra, which is called confidential, and we receive the Gayatris. This is the mantra which is received. This is the second initiation. This allows the disciple eventually to engage in the fifth aspect of initiation. The fifth aspect of initiation is deity worship, yagya. Yaga, we call it, yaga, in Sanskrit. The fifth aspect. So we said tapaha, austerity, pundra, tilak, third, nama, fourth, mantra, fifth, deity worship. Deity worship is the fifth samskara, and it is a process of initiation. Practically, in the olden days, the Guru used to give a deity to the disciple. The Guru used to take a Shaligram Shila or a Giriraj Shila, and he used to give it to the disciple. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu worshipped Giriraj, and he gave the Giriraj to Raghunath Das Goswami. He practically gave him. But did he give a deity? What did Mahaprabhu give? What does the Guru give when he is giving a deity? Anybody? What is he giving? Is he giving just a deity? No. In addition to giving the deity, the Guru passes on in a very mystical, subtle way. He passes on the relationship which the Guru has with Krishna to the devotee as well. So he's giving the Krishna Sambandha to the disciple, saying, you worship this deity as I've instructed you. This will allow you to develop your relationship with the Lord. You will understand your relationship with the Lord if you seriously worship this deity, because I am passing on the power to understand and my own understanding of relationship through the deity to you. Srila Prabhupada, instead of giving specific deities to the disciples, in second initiation, he simply said, worship the deity who is installed. For Birmingham, we have Jagannath. So Jagannath becomes the focus, and everybody who is second initiated, they have to take turns to worship him, take turns for the Pujari service, and so on and so forth. If this is not done, then the Sambandha Gyan will not develop. There is a need for Sambandha. This particular Gyan, which we call relationship, that relationship will not really fructify and will not be able to see. We won't be able to see it if we don't worship the deity. So this deity is practically Krishna. He has come. And the Guru, while giving the deity, has also bestowed blessings upon the disciple, saying, you worship this deity and you will know what your relationship is with Krishna. This is a very mystical Pancha Samskara. It is like a mystical process. For us to be able to engage in the deity worship, there's mantra being given. The conclusion of the Acharyas is ultimately you want to develop Sambandha Gyan. Why do we need Sambandha Gyan? Why do we need to know the relationship with Krishna? Let's hear this again. I spoke about it 5 minutes back. Why? Why do we need to know, ultimately? I'm sorry, I'm testing. Yeah, go ahead.
Is it to remove ignorance from intending?
Removing ignorance, yes, but then what happens? How does ignorance get removed?
So you can chant purely.
You can chant the Shuddha Nam, where you will know that this is where I am in the spiritual sky. This is the specific space in Vrindavan. This is my name in the spiritual world. This is Krishna, and this is my relationship with him. Okay? What am I in the spiritual world? That is Sambandha. So that when you know that, you're going to be able to call upon Krishna's name with a deep understanding of who you are with relationship to him, and that is going to practically unfold and you're going to be calling upon Shuddhanam, ultimately. So without knowing the relationship, you can't really do that. And the biggest process which is going to allow us to know the relationship is through the deity. The deity being given to us, and we worship the deity, we develop a relationship, isn't it? Have you seen people, they carry deities? I have my deities here inside. Okay, but deities are carried by people because they're very attached. Laddu Gopal is being carried. I remember seeing sadhus in Vrindavan, they will carry Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra in a little stand on their neck and they will walk around. It is their deity. They carry the deity. Gopala Bhatta Goswami, he used to practically tie up all his shilas, put it in the back, and then he used to carry them in a gamcha because he was renounced. He was a Babaji. He used to sleep under the tree. He didn't have an altar. He didn't have anything elaborate. All the deities were in one little towel, and he used to put the towel on his back and travel. You see, people carry the deities along. Now, this is Sambandha. This relationship develops of love. I have seen sadhus where you start first with procedure. The first procedure is called vidhi. Vidhi means procedure. In Sanskrit, when we use the word vidhi, it means procedure. Procedure as initiated by Lord Brahma, as initiated in the Vedas, that is vidhi. Lord Brahma is also called vidhi. Is the other name for Lord Brahma is vidhi. Now, vidhi means, what is it that we have to start? Right now, we are in an impure state. We don't have the capacity to serve the deity directly because we are in an impure state. Our senses have to be purified. Our mind has to be purified. Our intelligence has to be purified. By this purification, then eventually, more and more, we would have the relationship with Krishna being revealed while we worship the deity. So now we'll talk about purification. You see, the senses themselves, the subtle senses and the gross senses. The sense of taste, sense of smell, that's the first sense, isn't it? The sense of smell is the first sense. The second sense which is coming up is the sense of taste. The third sense which is coming up is the sense of sight. The fourth is the sense of hearing. It's the sense of touch. And then the sense of hearing is the fifth one. These are the 5 actions that are being performed. And what happens when someone hears, tastes, and then smells and so on? We're gaining knowledge, aren't we? You see, we're using our senses and we're engaging with the world and we're gaining knowledge. We're practically saying, if you close our eyes and you give us an object, I touch my phone and I know, okay, I've caught my phone in the middle of the night. I don't need to see it because the sense of touch is able to give me information. Similarly, when I'm seeing it, I know I'm seeing my phone now, isn't it? So the point is, the senses are giving us information. And since the senses themselves are impure, we are extraordinarily distorted in our idea of the world. That's why our priorities are very different. We have a completely different misconception as to what the world is because the senses are very impure. We gather knowledge through very impure aspects, or we practically gather knowledge through means which are very impure. Now, how can we understand our eternal relationship with Krishna if we can't even see properly in terms of who is sitting in front of us? I'm wearing glasses. Some of you wear glasses. You know that if you remove your glasses, you're going to have a problem with vision. You can't drive. Perhaps you can't walk even. So if you can't really see what's in front of you, how are you going to know using these senses where Krishna is? You can't. You can't perceive it. So now there's a need for purification. We can't serve the deity without purification. So the first thing is the sense of smell. When we offer chandan to the deity, when we offer sandalwood paste to the limbs of the deity, and when we offer that to the deity, the sense of smell in our own body, the subtle and the gross sense, will become purified. When we offer arghya, water, during the process of deity worship, we offer water in a conch, right? We offer water. We also offer Krishna bhoga, because Krishna can taste bhoga. When Krishna is tasting the bhoga that's being offered, when Krishna is being offered water, our sense of taste is being purified. When we offer Krishna an incense, it also purifies our sense of smell. When we offer Krishna a lamp, it purifies our sense of vision, subtle and gross. Okay? I was just explaining to someone, as an astrologer, I use up a lot of my ability to see, because I got to see beyond what others see. So there is Agni, fire required, fire within, for me to be able to see. So I was telling someone that my fire is very weak now because I'm not able to do fire sacrifices. Back home in New Jersey, I have my own Yagyashala, whatever I do at home, and I'm very regular in offering fire sacrifices. What happens is, when I offer fire sacrifices to the deity, I offer oblations into the fire, my sense of vision and Agni increase dramatically. In a similar manner, when you offer a lamp to your deity, you purify and increase your vision, you purify your vision. The distorted ability to see, it improves. You will practically notice that your vision can improve. Your vision can improve. You see some people, they say they have far-reaching vision into the future. We say that. It's more like a term. They have far-reaching vision into the future. They can practically see the future. They have this perspective. They have this great vision as a leader, which someone else may not have. This vision is a perspective where there's a person who has a lot of ability to see. This requires Agni Tattva. When you offer a lamp to Krishna, that perspective purifies. Our distorted vision purifies. And we are able to see the truth, as the Acharyas would want to. And then what is the fourth one? When we offer the chamara to Krishna. When we offer the chamara, when we offer the whisk, you see, the peacock feather fan, we are fanning Krishna. We are practically improving our sense of touch. You see? Can you feel it when someone is doing this? So we are improving a sense of touch. Can you see a lamp's light? So improving our vision. Can you smell chandan, which is sandalwood paste, which is being offered to Krishna? We are improving our sense of smell. Can you taste the bhoga which is being offered to Krishna, or the water which is being given to Krishna? That is improving our sense of taste. This particular process of giving different items which have been ordered by the Acharyas practically purifies our senses and then allows us for us to be able to focus and understand our relationship with Krishna. In addition to that, there's one item which I missed. All of this is accompanied with chanting of the holy names. What happens when you combine the holy names into all of this? You practically have the ability to hear. Your ability to hear me speak and understand and digest and to be able to act upon it will require your chanting. You cannot sit here in a class and absorb anything if your chanting is defective. If my chanting is defective, I cannot understand a verse in the Bhagavad Gita. I can't really give class. I can't. Developing realizations, as we call it, by reading Shastra, processing Shastra, and ultimately developing realization comes from chanting. So this is the fifth aspect. There are 5 senses that are actively engaging in the world. We purify these 5 senses through the 5 items that are being offered. You can classify the many different items into this particular group of 5 different elements. You practically purify the subtle and the gross by coming in touch with Krishna. But when you serve someone on a daily basis, what happens? When you serve someone on a daily basis, what happens? And you know about him. He's a wonderful person. What happens if you do it on a daily basis? You develop an attachment to him, isn't it? You develop some attachment. You miss him. You miss that aspect. So this whole idea of developing sambandha, relationship, is a critical aspect of deity worship. The idea of deity worship is to develop the sambandha. Now the Guru, while giving the deity, has already given a mystical process through the mantra of understanding that. So when they give us the second initiation mantras, the second initiation, which is the Gayatri, those mantras practically also enhance our ability to develop a deeper sense of relationship with Krishna. Having said that, one does not require the second initiation. The first initiation of just Harinam and chanting the holy names is adequate to go all the way back to Godhead. There's really no need. But if you want to worship the deity and you want to process and you want to develop deeper sambandha, this is an enhancement. and this enhancement is really wonderful, and it's very helpful as someone is able to make advancement in spiritual life. So this is the process of Pancha Samskara, and this is the main purpose of being able to give us the worship of the deity. Now, as we keep the deity at home, everything changes. One does not walk in with shoes when you come into this room because the deity is there. So you recognize that Krishna is there. You don't just eat, you cook for him, and you think, okay, at least one good meal should be made in a day. I can't make two, perhaps I'll do one good meal which has, everything, which you can eat. All of this changes. Why is it changing? Because your sambandha with the deity is increasing. You're accepting that there's a person in the house, and I can do a few things, and I can't do a few things because a person is in the house, and I'm going to be doing all of this wonderfully. So your sambandha is increasing, isn't it? So now what do? The deity is there. We want to give him, want to make him rest in the night. We make a nice cup of milk, warm milk, hot milk, and then we also think, he could scald his tongue, so let me cool the milk down a bit, because he could really hurt himself while he's just accepting the milk. So we kind of take that care. So now all this just develops because the deity is at home, and it increases your relationship with him. The sambandha increases. The greater and greater the sambandha increases, greater would be the ability of the person to chant. Greater would be the ability of the person to become fully absorbed, because the sambandha is increased. Now you have a relationship. So it's all about being able to increase your relationship and understand the aspects of your relationship. Okay? Now, let me see how much time did I spend. Yeah, this is defective vision. I can barely see. Yeah, I'm going to stop because it's 45 minutes, and I'll take some questions now. And again, to quickly summarize, we read 4.24, and the first line in the translation, Prabhupada writes that one who acts in full absorption in Krishna consciousness, and one who, for someone to be fully absorbed, we said one has to establish an identity. Without establishing an identity, you would not know what to do, because dharma is not known unless one knows what the relationship is. Krishna says right in the end, sarva dharman paritejya. What is he saying? He's saying all your actions are dependent on your identities. So he's saying that you have established so many different identities. Reject all those identities, put them to the periphery, put my identity with yourself in the center. That will allow you to act. Sarva dharman paritejya, mamekam sharanam vraja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayasmi. Masuchaha, he says, don't fear. Do not fear. So the point is that we want to be able to work ourselves into understanding how to go from very preliminary knowledge, which is so difficult for us to do things for Krishna because we don't even know, and to a point where we are engaging in it with full absorption. The journey is sadhana bhakti. And the journey of sadhana bhakti is supplemented, complemented by different ways by the Guru's mercy. So he gives us first initiation, and he is doing a few things. He's giving us a name, he's giving us the beads, and then we are wearing the tilak. So tapaha pundraha nama. Second initiation, the mantra is given. And then second initiation, you're asked to worship the deity, yaga. This is the fifth. This is the 5 samskaras. Once these 5 samskaras are there, we said samskara means impression. These impressions on our chitta, on our consciousness, allows us to develop a deeper sense of relationship with Krishna. And that in turn is an impetus, and it allows us to be able to chant. Ultimately, the objective of everything is to chant Shuddha Nam. And what is Shuddha Nam? Shuddha Nam is the name of Krishna, which is chanted with complete knowledge of a relationship with him, just as much as we would be in Goloka, where we are calling upon him with love. When the residents of Goloka are calling upon Krishna, they don't commit namaparad, neither are they desiring liberation. They are calling upon him with love, Shuddhanam. So that's our objective as well. Okay, so I'll stop here, and I hope I did not overwhelm you with too many details, as usual. I'll take some questions.
I've got one.
Sure, please.
Is there particular differences between men and women for chanting?
Who are chanting in terms of, is there a difference if you are in a woman's body versus being in a man's body to chanting?
In terms of obviously there's certain things change for the woman in the month,
right?
If you know what I mean.
Sure.
So at a time like that, what would you? Is there any rules around that or?
Not at all. There are no rules. There are practically no rules when you're chanting the holy name. You can chant the holy name when you're in the restroom. So the point is that even if there is a place of great contamination, one can call upon the holy name because Mahaprabhu has practically removed all restrictions. In that sense, there really isn't any difference. There really isn't any difference.
Even with the tilak on the body and stuff, it's the same?
At the point of initiation, yes. After the point of initiation. Everybody, before initiation, they can wear tilak on their forehead. But the process of initiation, then they start wearing tilak on 12 different aspects of their body. It's very important. It makes a very big difference. Those of you who have done it, have you noticed that there's a shift? Yeah? There's a shift. There's a big shift which occurs. When you wake up in the morning, after bath, then you wear 12 different places chanting specific names, then automatically, there's a very big shift. So there's really no restriction. Any other question? You promised me many, many, many questions. I'm not kidding. Maybe I've just overwhelmed them with too many details.
I'll ask if nobody else wants to.
Go ahead.
Giving you a chance.
Go ahead.
So it seems like a bit of a catch-22 in the sense that to know your relationship with Krishna, you need to be chanting in the pure stage of Shuddha Nam. But to chant in the stage of Shuddha Nam, you need to know your relationship with Krishna. So in the process of getting to that stage first, how do you get there? And it seems quite difficult.
Okay, let me just clarify. So the question is, you're asking that if one wants to know Krishna, one has to chant Shuddha Nam. No. One has to chant the offenseless name. There's a big difference between the offenseless chanting of the holy names and chanting the Shuddha Nam. The pure name of Krishna is the one where you chant, where you've known the relationship. The offenseless name is the part where you're completely stopped committing offenses while chanting. The 10 different offenses. The Nama Parada has stopped, and then now you're chanting without offenses. That accelerates your ability to move forward, and eventually you reach a point of understanding who you are in relationship with Krishna. That is gifted by the holy names as well. So you miss the middle part. Yeah. So this confusion can arise. Offenseless chanting is very different from the pure name. Please understand, that's Namabhas. Namaparad, chanting with offenses. Namabhas, offenseless chanting. Shuddhanam, pure name, third stage. 3 different stages. Now is it clear?
Yeah.
Any other question? Yeah, go ahead, please. Feel free.
Have I got what else you recently?
Shall I read it?
Yeah, obviously not like a narrated version, but it's like so much.
If there's nobody else who wants to ask a question.
I do have one more question.
Yeah, well, they're setting up. Yeah, please.
When we're outside, for example, at work or whatever, you're not able to offer Krishna at home what you're about to consume. Like say, for example, what do you do?
Okay, there are 2 options. Number 1, people who can't really offer things to Krishna. Number 1, of course, is that we choose a place which is vegetarian. We kind of become very specific about where we go to eat. That's number 1. Number 2 is, it is said, it's a second option. It is secondary in reality. It's the best thing is to pack food wherever you go. If you can do that, it's best. If you can really bring prasadam to work, wherever you go, that's the best option. If you're traveling and you can't really do that and so on and so forth, then you make the kind of second arrangement. And that arrangement, you accept it, and then you simply chant Shri Vishnu, Shri Vishnu, Shri Vishnu, you accept it. Yeah. But as we get more and more serious as we go forward, and this is a personal preference, then our attachment to Krishna would be such, though I don't want to eat anything which has not been touched by his lips, because the attachment would come. So it's a matter of also reaching that point where you become so attached to things which are associated with him that you don't want to touch anything which has not come in touch with him. But until then, the way is for us to kind of ensure that at least we are eating things which are called, like they are in the sattvic situation, in the mode of goodness, where we don't eat things which are not often. And second part to it is, the more serious someone is in the sadhana, then the occurrences of actually eating non-prasadam has to be completely minimized. And the reason I'm emphasizing this is that when our acharyas gave instructions, they said the seva has to begin with the tongue. Sevon mukhehi jihva adav. Adav is first, jihva is the tongue. Any seva has to begin with the tongue. So they said you have to honor Krishna prasadam, and then you have to chant the holy names, and this is the seva, this is the instruction of our acharyas. So why is it so? Because the tongue needs to be purified. The purification of the tongue occurs, as we spoke about it earlier, when we taste something which has been tasted by him. And as a consequence, when we taste something which has been tasted by him, and then we call upon his name resonates on such a tongue which has been purified by prasadam. So that's the import of having prasadam as much as we can and avoiding non-prasadam. Emergencies, you can do what I suggested. It's wonderful. But the most serious one becomes they try to restrict this. Because they're serious in wanting to chant. So they restrict it.
Thank you.
Sure. Yes, Prabhu.
On the topic of prasad, is it important who cooks the bhoga as well to offer? Because again, in terms of convenience, sometimes we might want to, like I say, we eat out sometimes and it's cooked by somebody else,
Right.
and then we offer that. But I guess to some extent that can also have an impact as well in the consciousness of it.
Two things. It's a very good question. Is the person who cooks, is it important? Yes. The answer is yes. Because it's like this. We all know that, I want to eat my mother's cooking. You ever heard of this? My mom cooks so well. You see, my mother's cooking is so good. And when we eat what the mother has cooked, then we feel good about it. Why is it so? Because when the mother cooks, she is cooking with the intention of wanting to give love and wanting to express her affection. As a consequence, when we eat whatever the mother cooks, we also feel quite fulfilled because of the fact that she has put her love into it. In a similar fashion, when we eat outside and someone is being paid minimum wage, they're not going to be able to put their love into the food they cook. They can't. They're probably cursing you because you're trying to make them work in a kitchen which is quite hot. They're not getting paid adequately. They have long hours. They want to end their shift, and they may even do funny things to your food before giving it back to you. We don't know what happens in the kitchen there. We don't know. So the point is, it does make a big difference as to who cooks. That's number one. Number two, the principle of offering has to become a part of who we are. See, if you can't really cook and then make proper arrangements to make an offering, at the very least ensure that you're able to offer before you accept whatever you eat. Saying, Krishna, I really couldn't make better arrangements for you, but here's what it is. These are my circumstances. I'm hungry, and so on and so forth. Okay, please, Krishna, let this not hamper my progress. Please accept it. This is a prayer that can be made so that at least there's some repentance that we are disassociating with him. If we want to chant, if you really want to taste the holy names, stick to prasad. Stick to prasad.
And to go a bit deeper into that, like sometimes the tendency to, have junk food, which is kind of tamasic in a sense, it's been there for so long, but then we have a dependence on that, so I guess that creates more ignorance, obviously in the mind as well, isn't it? So
it does.
Yeah.
It does. It does. Anything which is dissociated with Krishna, it can create problems. It can create problems. You see, there's again it's a matter of objective. Models who are trying to model for some fashion boutique or whatever it is, they go on a starvation diet just to maintain their figure so that the dress could fit in. You have athletes who starve themselves because if they add on even 1 kilo or a few pounds, they fall into the next class and they have to compete with bigger people and they would have problems. So the point which I'm trying to make here is that restricting the diet and narrowing down the diet and wanting to eat certain things, this is done all the time by people from very mundane objectives. So if you want to chant the holy names, what is the big deal in making a little sacrifice saying that I wouldn't eat out, and everything can be prepared. I was just talking today, if you buy the books by Prabhu, Kurma Das, vegetarian cooking, you practically can create, whatever is out there. He's just made it so simple and straightforward that you can just create whatever you want at home. You don't even need to step out. You can offer it to Krishna and you can have it. See, it's wonderful. So the point we want to make here is that you have to know why. The why part is you want to chant, and the tongue has to be purified and has to come in touch with Krishna before you can chant. And that's what prasadam does. It's seva. Yeah. What else can I do? I probably made it problematic for many of you to eat. Yeah. So you just invited trouble. Tomorrow the sandwich at wherever you eat, the cafeteria. Oh, no. It's going to be problematic. Yes,
So
Prabhu.
if the goal is to chant pure name, then why do we need to spend so much time reading, and there's emphasis on reading Srila Prabhupada's books? Why don't we just spend that time chanting and just get more absorbed in chanting? What's the need for all this knowledge?
What is the need for knowledge? What is the need to read Srila Prabhupada's books? Why not just invest all the time in just calling upon the holy names? Theoretically, when we read Srila Prabhupada's books, when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, when we read Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, all of those, it is practically preparing us for experiences. When you chant, you will have an opportunity to serve. You're chanting, you have an opportunity to serve. There would be experiences of interaction with Krishna. But how would you know what those experiences are? How do you recognize them as being bona fide? Are you speculating? So the qualification for those experiences is going to come from the reading of Shastra, because then you would say, I read it in Shastra, I experienced this, so I am progressing, I am on the path. So that's a primary means of knowledge. Knowledge prepares you for experiences in service. Very simple. Number 2, is it required? No. Srila Jiva Goswami says that if you're mindfully chanting, if you're very serious in chanting, Shastric conclusions will arise in your heart. You don't even need to come to Shastra. All the conclusions will arise in your heart. Srila Gaura Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, who is our grand spiritual master, great grand spiritual master, the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada's guru, he was a complete illiterate. But his disciple Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was the most renowned scholar of all. What is it which allowed Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to surrender to Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj? It was because Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj had realized knowledge that he had chanted, and the chanting had given him and filled his heart with all Shastric conclusions, and he had complete knowledge of all the Shastras, even though he had not read and he was illiterate. He couldn't write his own name. This is confirmed in scripture, in the Sandarbhas by Srila Jiva Goswami. Srila Jiva Goswami does emphasize that chanting can grant us all of this.
So we don't need to read.
Please read. Unless you can do what Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj did. Yeah? You can sit and chant 24/7. Yeah, please come in touch with Srila Prabhupada's books. Please. Because Srila Prabhupada's books are divine, they're transcendental. When you come in touch with them, when you hold them in your hands, there's a transmission of knowledge. Please do read Srila Prabhupada's books. Yeah, just come in touch with it.
But the problem is some of us may not naturally be readers. We're not used to reading, the words are big, it's hard to understand. So isn't it better just to go to classes or listen to lectures?
You can. If you find it difficult to pick up a book and read, you can listen if you're the listening type. Better still is to listen or read and prepare to share with others. Because the moment you start preparing for a class by listening and reading, you will pick up a lot more than if you were to just casually read. See? So that should be the objective of reading. You should say that I'm going to read 7th canto and I'm going to prepare a set of classes with 7th canto, for example, of Srimad Bhagavatam. Then the scrutiny and the level of diligence with which you would read would be far greater, because then you'll be building realizations, you'll be writing down points, you'll be building some structure into it. Then it becomes very easy for you to remember. It also is very, it's useful because now you've done something where you have a reason for doing it, and you're sitting down, investing time, and you're coming out with this. Does it make sense? So that's what ought to be done. Sharing is what helps us remember. Sharing allows us to internalize. Yeah? That's what is required.
So even if I can read just to share with my family members or the BB or peers, whatever.
Absolutely.
Even if I'm not going to class, I can share with other people, other devotees.
Absolutely. Undoubtedly. Sharing is very important. I think that's the whole idea of having a group where we can share. Yeah? Everybody should share. And if you read with the objective of sharing, you will gain a lot more than if you were to just read casually. You see? So when you read, think that, okay, I'm preparing for a class. Write down. Then automatically things start coming. What else?
Do you want to ask a question? Ask it. Lakshmi, do you want to ask a question?
Yeah. So my question is there a standard of deity worship to get to offenceless chanting? For instance, a particular deity to worship, or regularity of offering prasad?
You're asking about whether there's a certain standard of deity worship that one can adopt which would assist. Is that what your question is?
In order to be able to chant without offences.
Without offenses. Okay. Yeah, the idea is that any level of deity worship which you're comfortable with in terms of time should be chosen. You see, Srila Prabhupada advocated that one has to complete the business of deity worship and offering, which is cook for the deity, make the offering, do the worship, all within 1 hour. This was Prabhupada's standard. Which means that, you really have to figure out everything and you have to be very quick, and then in 60 minutes you're done with preparing the food, preparing the plate, offering it to the deity, doing your deity worship, and then making the bhoga offering as well. So the point which we want to make is, number one, because we are all also engaged in the world, you would want to set aside a certain amount of time which you're comfortable, where you can consistently do that without a miss. Very consistent. And consistent means, you don't miss it, and it's easily doable. You do it every day at the same time in the morning or the evening, depending on what's comfortable for you, and then you consistently do it every day. And then what you can do is to allow for the process to be done comfortably in terms of time. You could choose a minimal level of offerings. So you could choose, for instance, you could choose incense, lamp, flower, and then offering something for the deity to eat, some bhoga, and then doing a little bit of chanting and kirtan while you're doing it. These 5 items, you could do just this consistently. It might take you around 30 minutes to do all of this, and that can be maintained quite consistently, and this would contribute immensely towards deity worship, towards chanting as well. The idea of deity worship is to recognize that Krishna is a person. He has needs, he has certain times to eat, and we have to take care of him. And for us to be able to take care of him, we need to be able to make some kind of a sacrifice. So this is the attitude. So now when we start recognizing Krishna as a person, and when we become less and less impersonal, because we are very impersonal. We don't recognize the deity as Krishna. We don't recognize his needs. So the more and more and more we become personal with Krishna, the greater would be our ability to chant. It would contribute immensely to our chanting. And all of this should be done consistently, where we say that just as much as we need to be fed, we need to wake up at a certain time, he also prefers all of this at a consistent time. And we just have to engineer our own life, turn it around in such a way that we are able to make a sacrifice so that we can meet his need. Yeah? So it's very important for us to have this understanding of why we are doing it and how we are doing it. Yeah? Did I answer your question, Lakshmi?
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Yeah.
So you mentioned that taking on initiation means you you're able to develop your relationship with Krishna
Mm.
even more. So, in one respect, shouldn't everyone take second initiation if they qualify to?
The answer is yes. There are many who take second initiation. You practically everybody takes second initiation in ISKCON, and it's quite organic. In one sense, it's quite organic in the sense that finding the spiritual master, getting initiated once, second, it's all a sequence. It's quite organic. It's not something which one needs to really heavily plan for, other than the fact that they want to serve. When the development of desire to serve becomes quite strong, and then when the faith becomes quite fixed in terms of wanting to engage in that service and receive instructions to improve, then automatically all other arrangements are made by Krishna to bring us closer to Him. So, should everyone aspire for the milestone of second initiation? Why not? We can. Yeah, there's nothing. It's a milestone. It's a milestone. It's a milestone. It's also great responsibility, because when you're given a greater level of access to the Lord, when you're given a greater level of information, when you're given more confidential aspects of relating to Him, greater would be the responsibility in that position. So, yeah, it's a matter of great responsibility as well. But needless to say, if someone is just attached to the holy names, they just want to chant Harinam, then that's perfectly fine. The holy names, Harinam, Mahamantra, is completely capable of taking us back to Godhead. Yeah, never have any doubts on that. It's a fact.
Sorry, can I just ask one last question?
Not at all. Please, go ahead.
The Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita, does it matter if you read it just on your own, or does it have to be through classes?
You can read it on your own. It's perfectly permissible. When you read, when you attend classes, then it gives you perspective.
Yeah.
And it might give you an angle which you might not have. If you participate with many others, then it gives you a greater level of enthusiasm, because you have peers, you have you can share thoughts and so on and so forth. But you can surely read it on your own. You can come in touch. You could just say, I'm going to allocate 30 minutes every day, and I'm going to do 30-minute reading every day. It's perfectly permissible. Yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
Could I put a little advert? So this is what we do on every Thursday, every other week, every other Thursday. We get together as a group and we read a particular passage, a section of Bhagavad Gita, one paragraph, maybe it's about 5 paragraphs, 1 page. So the thing is, we could all read that at home by ourselves. The thing is, when we come here and we discuss it as a group, we churn it so deeply that if you just read that, even if I just read that by myself, you don't get the same realization when you discuss as a group. It's amazing. I come every Bhakti-Viksha, I don't know what we're going to talk about today, because the topic of conversation just is amazing, it's magical. Sometimes I leave totally wow, how did we end up talking about that? Which obviously when you're just sitting and reading at home, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Any other questions? So maybe one last question. The topics of Radha Krishna and the Ras Leela are very confidential topics, in fact the most confidential. So why are they written in books? Why are they so accessible to everybody if they're so confident and people reading them might misunderstand and not see them for what they are?
Yeah.
So why does Prabhupada even talk about them in the books? Why aren't they just kept very secret and only those who are chanting Shuddha Nam can then get access?
Yeah. Why is so? The question is that when we say that there are confidential aspects of Krishna's relationship with Srimati Radharani and her associates, if that is indeed confidential, then why is it being exposed in Scripture? In one sense, we'll have to understand the word confidential. Guhyam is the word used in Sanskrit. Guhyam, Paramaguhyam, Krishna says in 18.65. How many people have read the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and how many of them have practically understood how to use it in their lives? Very few. Very few. When we read Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, then you read the purports, then what is supposedly confidential, hidden, not accessible to others, becomes more accessible, because even though it is hidden, the Guru makes it accessible to others. The point which I'm trying to make is, scripture is confidential, it's guhyam. It can be left outside for others to read. They would get nothing if they don't have authority to be able to enter into scripture. So it's like going to Mayapur. There's a beautiful conversation between Sri Nityananda Ram and Srila Jiva Goswami. So Srila Jiva Goswami is asking him about the situation of Mayapur or Vrindavan in the material world. He says, this is material because you see, for example, in Mayapur, you see an abundance of aspects of material life. You can really point out, oh, this is material, that is material. You can really say. In Vrindavan, you have pigs strolling, you have gutters open, you may have a stench. You might find many things happening which are decidedly, distinctly material. Then what is spiritual? See, the spiritual aspect, it says that Nityananda Ram, Lord Nityananda, clarifies to Srila Jiva Goswami. He says, even though it's material, there's a layer. You see, this is the spiritual world, but there's a layer of material energy that's covering it. So if you do not have proper access to the spiritual aspects of the Dham, you'll be on the layer of material energy which is covering it. If you have access to the confidential aspects of spirituality which are found in the Dham, then you relish the Dham which is entirely spiritual. So in a similar fashion, you might have an extraordinarily confidential aspect of Leela being provided. And if someone has material consciousness and they don't have the authority, they would just be sitting on the material aspect of it. While others who have access to it can enter into the confidential aspects of it and are able to gain more. So this is the other side to it. In days that were in the past, the days of past, you really didn't have a printing press. You didn't have a printing press. All you had was one set of Srimad Bhagavatam was extraordinarily rare, where it was handwritten and one Guru had it. You really couldn't go anywhere but to the Gurukul to sit under the lotus feet of the Guru to learn Srimad Bhagavatam, because there was just one copy. There wasn't really so many different copies because they were handwritten. And as a consequence, the Guru had complete control over administering who could receive this knowledge, who could not. In the present day, there's a need to make it extraordinarily available so that people can come in touch with it so that they can understand it. But spiritual life is very confidential, just as much as this movement is. You can enter into this movement very easily, and you can leave this movement quite easily, because it has its own process of recruiting and firing as well. It leaves people. People just leave, and they say that, oh, I have left it because there was this problem, that problem, I've just moved away. In reality, no, you didn't leave it, you were sent away. You didn't know it. You just didn't know it, you left. But you were sent away, because this process of bringing people in, keeping them here, and also pushing them out is very confidential. It happens quite efficiently. So in a similar fashion, you can have access to all of this, and someone could just go and then look at it from a very mundane, base aspect, and that is all they're going to get, and they would say, this is what it is. They would get confused, they would just walk away. And someone else would listen to Prabhupada. They would say Srimad Bhagavatam has to be approached from the first canto before you go to the 10th canto. And one goes from the canto to canto to canto properly in an organized way, because they are listening to the Guru and they're able to follow him. So the point I'm trying to make is that in one sense there's mercy. In another sense, I would agree with you that something very confidential is now openly available in the internet, and people do not even know that this is like extraordinarily confidential. But scripture can be protected. The more confidential aspects of it will not be revealed to a mundane reader. He would just look at the mundane aspect of it, get bewildered, and walk away. So it's not going to be something where it's going to be revealed. Does it make sense to you?
It does, but I think the question is more towards, why is that even available so that somebody comes and gets bewildered? That's more the question. I even met somebody in Birmingham University, and it was on the Muslim table, and he said, "Oh, I've converted from Hindu." I said, "Oh, well, that's interesting. Why?" He said, "Because how can I worship a God who steals the clothes of young girls and dances with other men's wives?" He said something along those lines. So because he's got access to that information, therefore he's rejected. Whereas if he was just protected from that in the first place, he could have just gone with it.
No, the point is that there is a danger of unauthorized people who do not have qualification to come in with very confidential aspects of the Leela. There's a danger, but then there's also a benefit that you, I, and everybody have Srimad Bhagavatam at home, and even though we don't have access to a Gurukul where we have to dedicate ourselves to studying it, we have the aspect of being able to study it openly and we can read it. So the point which I'm trying to make here is, yes, there's a benefit and there's a flip side to it as well. Yeah, and there is, acknowledge the fact that yes, there are confidential aspects of it which are made available. And just not to the gentleman that you spoke of, who is sitting there and who doesn't have the qualification in the first place. Even devotees, they have to have the ability to understand certain confidential aspects. They really shouldn't be jumping into it. They are better off chanting, and through the process of chanting, they are better off being led into the confidential aspects, rather than jumping into the confidential aspects and trying to learn, something which they're not qualified to do. You can't really enter into sacred grounds, as we call it, without being sufficiently sacred yourself. You can't. So that's the issue which we face. So there's a flip side of making it openly available so that many can relish, and at the same time the flip side of people who are unauthorized, unqualified to come in touch with it. Yeah. Isn't it amazing? Yeah, it's quite amazing. Yeah, it's an awesome science. It's an awesome spiritual process. It's extraordinarily confidential, and it's being presented in such an amazing manner where it's so accessible. So there has to be deep gratitude that we have access to it, and we also have authorities who can give us guidance, who can help us go closer. Yeah, without chanting, nothing is going to matter. Yeah. Personally, if you ask me, if you were to take away everything, I would just like to have a bead bag so that I can chant. You can't really do anything without chanting. Yeah, really can't. There's wonderful if you are enthused to engage in Krishna's service in so many different ways. It will surely add up to your devotional credit. Eventually, if you don't allow all of that to filter into being able to focus on calling upon the holy names, then we are kind of missing many aspects of what we ought to be doing. Anything else? Okay. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Vrindavan Pr ki.